Mr. Bible.
Here, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to public comments.
We do have public comments. Christine.
Chrissy, if you come on up and do your thing. I'm not going to read my speech because you're the only one signed up. Okay.
My name is Christina. As you all know, this will be my 9th year doing the pole runs in Edgewater Beach. And this year, Justin Grace from Ken challenged Streetsboro as long as all of the other Portage County schools. But as far as we know, we're the only school versus 10 again. So we as Streetsboro have to get a move on with staff and sponsoring them because they're beating us, and that is not good. And this year we also got a letter trophy for the winning team to keep in their building to show for a year to say we won for the challenge between the schools. But also, if you know anyone who would want to donate, I have the flyers. If you just want to raise your hand, I will pass them out to you. If you know anyone who would want to sponsor the team or anything, then they can do it by following the flyer that I'm gonna pass out. And a big thank you to Joe Patricia for sending out the emails to the teachers, the staff, everyone here, because if I had to do it, it would take me a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy. Always good to see you, and you bring a smile to our face when we see you come in. So thanks again. You can count on a donation from me. I know I didn't do it yet this year, but it'll be on there in a day. Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the minutes from the January 10th, 2018 organizational meeting and regular meeting as submitted.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Second, I'm sorry.
Denise and Kevin.
Okay. Mrs. Babbitt.
Yes.
Mr. Grimm.
Yes.
Mr. Gibson. Yes. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Bible.
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to reports, superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to begin by asking our promising practices month to go ahead and take the podium. As they're walking up, these are members from our Streetsboro elementary school staff, and I'm not going to spoil the surprise on what they're going to be presenting, so I'll hand that over to Mr. McCollum.
Thanks, Mr. Delmo. About a year ago, our district was approached by the state of Ohio, the Ohio Department of Education, to have the opportunity to participate in an initiative that focused on spelling and reading within our building. And through a great deal of hard work by Joe Petrarca and Ariane Curtis to help really kind of push this through, we were fortunate enough to be named one of the 8 school districts in the state of Ohio to be able to participate in such an initiative. I don't want to spoil what our 2 presenters are going to talk about tonight, but I do want to say that on behalf of almost 700 students in our building, this is a pretty amazing thing that's taking place right now. So I know they are so grateful. It's a lot of work. Sometimes they complain a little bit, but they're really getting so much more out of this than I think even myself anticipated looking back on this a year ago. So we have with us tonight two of our amazing staff members, Stephanie Van Dyke from the state support team, and Annette Lomas, who is our literacy coach as well, to tell you a little bit more about letters. Annette?
Hello, good evening. Thanks for letting us present our information. We're really excited about what we've accomplished in such a short period of time with our students.
I'm gonna fix one thing.
Yeah, we fixed that.
There we go.
Okay, so just to give a little background, to piggyback off of what Greg said, Stephanie and I work together every day, collaborating and working with teachers on what the best practices to help our students meet their fullest potential in the classroom. Our initiative is really through this letters program, and just to give you an idea what it is, it's like a college course that the teachers take every week. We have about 2 hours a week on our own time to complete this very intense information. And it is so awesome. Even though it's so much work, it just has opened up all of our teachers' eyes on what we need to do to help our students. We can look at any program and say, well, this is the good part of it, or no, this isn't the best practice on how we can instruct our students. So we're on, I guess, the second stage of it, because it's 2 years. So we had our first semester done, we started up our second semester, so we had 2 units last semester, and units 3 and 4 this semester. Another great thing about this is not just the teachers are part of this, but the administrators as well. So our principals and Ariane are all taking the courses with us.
And Joe.
And Joe. Sorry, immediately. And Joe. So it's everybody's in it 100%. So along with those lessons are like these bridge to practice activities that we have to do. So it's kind of like our homework. After we take the lessons online and read our book, we have to practice these things with our students. All right, so with that, there's some video or pictures here of our face-to-face sessions. So we go 3 times a year where we are working with the national trainer, Antonio, and he was the co-author of the program. So if we have any questions, I mean, he's the man to ask. And we email him all the time, and he gets right back to us. And Stephanie talks to him. And then, of course, we talk about all these letters topics, either at our staff meetings, in our TBTs, which are teacher-based meetings, which are, we meet with them, Stephanie and I meet with them every other week. And then I just wanted to emphasize, you can see a picture of Ariane there and Greg, so I thought that was pretty impressive that they're with us all along for the ride.
Photo evidence.
Yeah. And then Stephanie, I'd like you to talk.
So we had an opportunity through our grant partnership to work with the Ohio Coalition for Students with Disabilities. And we offered a parent training this fall, which was open to not only students with special needs families, but any struggling student. And the families came together at Streetsboro Elementary. We opened it up to Portage, Medina, and Summit counties as well. So it was a collaborative effort in the region. We had 12 families come this fall, and we're planning on hopefully gaining some momentum and redoing this training next fall as well as a connection in the home. So what we're doing in the classroom, taking it into the community as well. Okay. So part of our letters initiative is taking the letters framework and then putting it into their classroom. Because it's one thing to take an online class, but is it really helping our students? Because that's what we're doing. So we started using a standard assessment system preschool through grade 3, where we screen students in the fall, see practice some strategies, then test them again in the winter, in the spring, keep going. So this was our fall benchmark data, so we have students in the green would be meeting expectation, yellow would be needs support, and then red is low level. So this is our building data, and you can see we're making some growth, but we did some strategic instructional strategy work with our first grade team, and this is our first grade results just within about 5 months. So you can see we went from 47%, which were on level, to 68% of our students meeting grade level expectation. Right? So we hope to continue that momentum. You have to start somewhere. So we started in first grade, but we want to continue that success preschool through grade 3. And then you want to go ahead?
Sure. Well, I just wanted to show you some kids in action and some teachers in action. I mean, pictures can tell 1,000 words. That I know we were highlighting first grade, but all the teachers are working very, very hard to provide the best instruction possible. So we're going to see these numbers continue to climb and just improve every day. I mean, this is a short period of time that we're seeing such big changes, and it's so exciting. So, I mean, the pre-K team really they're really jumping on board with, I guess, it's a new assessment that not everybody's doing, so it's kind of neat that we're piloting this and they were willing to do it. And that definitely gives us a lot of information on what we can do to support our preschool teachers. So that's been a big eye-opener for us, and the earlier we help these kiddos, the better off they're going to be. So then the next slide is kindergarten in action. One of the great activities that all pre-K through third grade is doing are these phonemic awareness activities. It's about 10 to 15 where it's very quick, short, 2 to 3 minute activities, and you see the kids moving their hands and saying the sounds and the rhymes, and it's just phenomenal, and what a difference it's making in their decodability reading. And then again, in first grade, you can see even with our new reading units of study, the teachers are doing a phenomenal job implementing this new. Doing some word study, and we do this amazing thing called they take a word and they have to tap it out, called stretch and catch. So it was the word cat, app, cap, and you can see them all when they're studying it, or they're trying to read a word that they don't know, they're tapping it out, stretching and catching it. So it's just really transferring not only to the word study, but also when they're reading books. And then third grade as well. So everyone is just on board. It's just so exciting. I just can't wait. So we're here again in a few more months. I don't know when we'll be back. Please invite us. Yeah, you know where to find us. To see even at the end of the year how far we come. So moving forward, we're just looking forward to this continued success and our high quality of instruction for optimal student growth. We'll continue our training with letters, our early interventions, and to continue to celebrate our successes.
Before you guys sit down, I wanted to just kind of emphasize what Annette and Stephanie and Greg said. This is a very intense program. It would be equivalent, I think, to a college class. I think they can get credit. Yeah. So they are. So the teachers are doing this, and this was a grant that Joan and Ariane applied for, and we were one of 16 to receive it, and it's funded through ODE. So the Streetsboro City School District is the benefit of that, all the teachers. And I can't say enough for all the teachers. I want to thank all the teachers because they're putting a lot of their own time into this. But it's revolutionizing and changing the way we teach reading. When you look at our test scores district-wide, you've heard me say this before, but the foundation of all of our grade levels, the foundation is literacy, primary literacy. And if you don't have a strong foundation and strong primary literacy program, it can have detrimental effects all the way to K-12. So this is changing the way we teach, and Ariane showed me the data, some of the data the other day, and they just showed some of the data up there. And that much growth in this short period of time is pretty amazing. So I'm excited to see what happens over the next couple of years. I have not seen Stephanie working with teachers, but I've heard some great things about her. But I can say that I was a Nets principal, and she was an outstanding teacher, and I've heard unbelievable things about her being a coach in the classroom. So hats off to these two ladies, and then to Greg and Cindy and Joe and Arian, who are also taking the training right there alongside the teachers. So it's a tremendous program. It's a ton of time, but I believe that we're going to see tremendous results in the next couple of years. It's going to take some time because it's going to have to permeate, but I'm excited about this. So I didn't mean to jump in, but I wanted to recognize these two ladies because they're doing a lot of work. Is there any questions for them?
Is this the first year that this program's been around?
I don't believe so. No.
It's been around for a while, so but it's first year in Streetsboro.
Correct. Yes, we applied last year in the spring and were awarded in the spring. And the schools that have been in it for a while, again, they showed district-wide tremendous growth. But again, it's really focusing on how to teach reading, and all of our teachers were prepared in teaching reading, so this is really changing the way they think too. It's research-based.
And it covers kids from all across their different abilities, and whether or not they've had any help at home or whatever.
Correct.
Yeah, there's an emphasis on all students.
Oh, did you? I jumped in. You guys have any? Well, thank you very much. And I heard, Mr. McClung, you have a remedial portion of this, don't you?
I'm taking Cindy through that now.
Oh, I thought they were taking you through that.
Mr. Gallo, I apologize, Alex, did you get us going on?
I didn't, but that's all right. Just want to say good evening and welcome to everyone joining tonight's live broadcast of the Board of Education meeting. I'm Alex Antonczyk, and tonight's meeting is being held in the Deaf and Intermediate cafeteria. Now back to you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. So the next item on my report, we need to reschedule the strategic planning meeting that's set for this February. I would, however, like to ask the board to not set a date yet. What I want to do with the strategic planning meeting, rather than traditionally we've talked about the building project, I think the last 4 years, and updates and some big decisions. What I would like to do is use this actually for strategic planning. And when we have the strategic plan almost completed, I'd like to use this data to roll it out to the public. So I'd like to postpone it indefinitely, but more than likely it would be in the spring. If the board's okay with that. All right, so we'll publicize that. We'll have to put that out there. So the February, I think it's the 26th maybe. I'll have to look, but that February strategic planning meeting was a Saturday morning. That will be postponed. Thank you. I wanted to give you a quick update on the cell tower project. Now you've heard me talk about it. We talked about how we were slowed down. It was almost a year. We were waiting on permits. Well, if you haven't driven by there, the tower is up. They actually constructed a road around the stadium for us. We didn't have to pay for that as part of the project, which gives us access now to the back portion of the stadium, which we never could get vehicles back there. The cell tower is in. It looks to go live. We look to have it go live probably by the end of February with T-Mobile. T-Mobile signed on to that. My contact with TowerCo told me that already Verizon and AT&T are already talking to, so we could receive 2 more tenants pretty quickly. But I think T-Mobile has to go live first before that can happen. I think the residents over in Deer Meadow and of course anyone at the high school are going to be really happy with that, because that area actually is one of the biggest dead spots in this region. So that cell tower is going to really give people a lot of a nice service. But as a part of the deal, we actually received $143,000. And we talked about this a couple years ago, but we took an upfront payment of $143,000 rather than a monthly payment for 10 years. And the reason we did that, we wanted to take that money and put it into our stadium fund, athletic stadium fund, for the purpose of throwing that in with our naming rights money, for the purpose of repairs, upgrades, when we need to replace turf, resurface a track. That money doesn't come out of the general fund. So we're trying to build a pot of money that we can use to address those athletic programs in the stadium. So we did receive that check for $143,000, and coupled with all of the naming rights money, we have a pretty nice account built right now. Well over $200,000, approaching the $300,000 mark with naming rights. So that's a lot of money that we're going to sit and let it draw some interest, and then as we need it, we'll have it, and then it won't come from the general fund.
Don't put it in stocks right now.
Hear that, Matt?
Yep, got it.
Are there any questions about the cell tower? It is a little bit of a mess over there. If you go over there, you're going to see a lot of mud. Part of the contract is a site cleanup, and that obviously can't happen until spring. So they'll do all the site cleanup and groom it back. Okay, next item, I just wanted to give you a quick ECOT update. As everyone's heard, ECOT shut down. I never thought it would happen. I thought it was a media ploy, but it really, truly did happen. Excuse me. I actually received an email from ODE today directing all superintendents in the state of Ohio to verify where the Streetsboro kids that were in ECOT, we have to verify that they've enrolled somewhere else, either in our district or somewhere else. We know of, I think, everyone but 2. We don't know where 2 are yet, but we have a way to find that out, and we're working on that. So there were several Streetsboro students that were affected. How many came back to us? Yeah, we're at 4 that actually came back to Streetsboro, taking advantage of our online school, which we believe is better than ECOT or Connections or Online Academy because they're our students. So they can walk across our stage at graduation, get a Streetsboro diploma. They can participate in all of our events, our activities, proms, picture day, all that type of stuff. So we were able to pull 4 back, and we might get a few more.
And that money comes back to us then, right?
Well, we don't pay it out, so yeah. So instead of the $6,500 going to ECOT, we'll get about $1,900 from the state.
Fair trade.
Fair trade, isn't it? Any questions about ECOT? Okay, and then my final report or presentation, I'm going to ask Mr. Festmeyer to come up, and while he's walking up, I'm going to pass around some folders. So I'm going to preface his remarks. I hope I don't take away from his presentation, but we have this beautiful new auditorium, and we knew when we build it, they would come, build a dreams, okay? And so what's happening now is we have these groups that are coming in and wanting to use the auditorium, and they know we have these 2 robotic cameras, and we have these mobile cameras with Wi-Fi now linked directly back to a state-of-the-art TV studio. And so now they're all starting to knock on Tom's door and saying, hey, Mr. Festmeyer, can you please video record us or tape us and record us and create us some nice DVDs? And this is, I would say, uncharted territory for us. So I threw it back to Tom, and literally he had already planned all this. He had done all this. So I'm going to have Tom do his presentation, and we're going to talk about what we want to roll out here. So go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks. I appreciate your time. As Mike said, since we moved in last January, I've had probably 4 or 5 requests from different people who have come into the high school and said, hey, can you record this event? And we've never had anything in place for things outside of school functions. And school functions, we can get some kids in working outside school. It's really uncharted territory, as Mike said. So, where do we go from there? What happens? And how do we get there? So I sat down with Mike, a couple weeks ago and kind of talked some things out. And he said, well, you really need to come present this. So here I am. So if you'd go next, please. We were getting many requests. And with that, we're looking at doing something, but there's really nothing in place for us to provide any answers to anybody. And there's no basis. And I've kind of reached out to some commercial places, and I gave you guys my notes from that. And I've reached out to some other schools, but I never really got any information back. And it's hard to get a grasp on what's out there and who's doing what. But I looked at this as an opportunity for everybody involved. So as people come in, there's an opportunity to have their event recorded. There's an opportunity to expand what we're doing. And it's an opportunity to put a budget for TV, which we currently, our budget consists of selling DVDs, and that's it. And it doesn't bring a whole lot of money in. So the whole idea is we'd like to reduce some costs. So when we need things and we need equipment or we need little things for the TV station, that, we would have a little bit of money to be able to go out and get that. So if you go to the next one, please. So our benefits mainly, honestly, is we're going to put kids in charge, and this is going to be not a business, but it's going to be a business opportunity, and I'll explain that in a minute. It's just an extension of what we're doing now, really, and we have that capability, and I'll give you an example of that in a couple minutes here. It really provides a service to companies coming in. I have a dance studio right now that I've talked to the owner a couple times, and we've been going back and forth on email, and trying to get an idea of where are you guys at, what are you used to paying, and I really can't get an answer, but it gives people to come in to rent our auditorium an all-in-one option, meaning, hey, come in, use our auditorium. As a convenience, we also can offer this because we have the state-of-the-art equipment, and we can record, capture what's going on for you, and we can turn around and give you DVD, or we can give you an electronic file, depending on what you want and how you want to proceed with that. Big thing for us is the budget. We're looking at that, but it's also going to be an opportunity for us to hopefully pay students. And one of the problems I currently have are getting enough kids to come in at night. They all work. They all have lives outside of school. And so to bring people back in, they right now they want something to return, and I don't blame them. They're busy just like we're busy. So that gives us that option, I'm hoping. And then the last one there is we are utilizing the investment. It's there. Let's make some money on it if we can. And let's help, students. Let's help the program is kind of where we're at. So in doing this, one of the first calls I made out into the commercial world, and I gave you guys, I provided some figures, but these commercial places, they charge per person, per hour, per production rate. They also charge a per hour camera rental and a per hour graphics rate, and then they charge editing rates, they charge setup fees, teardown fees, and they went through, and they are expensive, and they can range over $1,000 an hour to do something professional. We have the same capability. We can do that much cheaper, really. If you bring an outside company to do this, the production company that I spoke with last year, they had one camera, or not the production, I'm sorry, the dance companies who came in, or I spoke with on the phone, they had one camera last year. And they said the audio was poor, the camera shot was not great, and they paid a lot of money to get a DVD of this. And so they're like, well, can you share an example? I'm like, yeah, we can do that. So I sent a file that I'll show you of what we've done. And the owner was like really excited of our capabilities. We are set up. We don't have to run any additional cables. Everything's wired direct, which is the next slide. We're hardwired. We have a camera in the back of the auditorium mounted to the wall. We have a camera on stage left mounted up in the ceiling. We also have a wireless camera system that would be available if somebody wanted to rent it. That requires a student to come in and actually operate the camera. The remote cameras, we can sit back in the studio and operate the cameras with a joystick and capture all the audio, capture everything we need to capture. The owner said, hey, the audio, I noticed your audio, it's crystal clear. Yes, we're wired directly. We're connected right to our studio, and everything is crystal clear. So it's a professional production, what we're capable of. And then we can do this for about a quarter of the cost of what professional companies do, and our kids get a great experience in doing it. So my proposal is, and what I would like to do is I'd like to do a per hour rate based on client needs. There's variables with everything. I know some of these dance things, they go on for a couple days. Some go on for one night. Variables, length of program, number of cameras required, types of video copies. I looked into if we want to do USB, MP4 files and put them on a flash drive and sell flash drives. Could we do that? And there are flash drive copiers out there, and I've kind of explored that a little bit and just trying to get a feel for what people do. And that seems to be a little bit more of the future and getting away from DVDs, although people still do DVDs, but I keep hearing they're going out, but I haven't seen that happen yet. And then, in doing that, we have a multitude or capabilities of having a multitude of cameras within the auditorium. So if you would go to the next one, this is from last fall, this was a circ.
Or
And
play.
Mr. Borderline, we went in and we had an audio feed and we ran cameras out the back of the auditorium. And if you watch through this, you'll see, the camera from overhead, I believe is probably gonna be the next shot. So it kind of gives us a downward look, which the owner of this dance company said, hey, I kind of like that because I can see my kids standing in the back, but we can't do that. So that gives us a different camera angle there. And then the next shot that's gonna come up is the actual wireless camera where we have a run and gun camera. So you can see a person standing up in front here. So we're kind of capturing that person from behind, but it's just a totally different shot. It just really adds to our production of what we're trying to do. And we've utilized it numerous times just with school productions. Now we're kind of looking at, where do we want to go with this and what can we do with this? And that's kind of what I'd like to talk about. So if we can roll to the next one. Out of this, you know what? I want to pay students. And it's a skilled position to be able to come in and operate this equipment. If you come in and look at the board, and I think a lot of you guys have been in, but there's a lot of buttons to push and there's a lot of things going on. You got to know what you're doing. It is a skilled position. And so, my proposal is, hey, I'd like to pay him $15 an hour. Our contract language right now pays me $30 an hour anytime we're working with students in the evenings to be able to do that. So that doesn't change. But I don't want that coming out of the general fund. I want that coming out of any monies that we would charge. So if we brought a dance company in and we said, hey, it's $1,000 or $1,500, out of that, we're paying students, we're paying me, and then we're raising money, the remaining money that would go into a TV budget, and we'd be able to kind of fund future expansions and hopefully expand what we're recording now, because it's hard right now to get students to come in and do this in the evenings. So this is a way to be able to do that, and it's hopefully not really costing the district anything. It's just an opportunity for us to create a revenue stream. So
I'm going to tag with you here. When Tom brought this idea up to me, I thought it was tremendous because one, it's an extension of the curriculum. These kids are taking classes in TV production. They're doing this. It's a skilled position. It's something that they can go on to a college, a four-year college. They can go on to a trade school, or they could even go into the business really right out of high school with what Tom is teaching them and with what this board and the community has invested in the TV studio. And Tom's idea was great. He says, you know what? Why don't we create this menu of options for these companies to come in and have them pay us for it? We're using our equipment, our kids, our staff. So let's build a program that's self-funding and also then create that budget, do enhancements to the TV studio, or if there are things that break that can be fixed. So we have to work out the financial details, but I wanted Tom to give you guys this presentation, get your feedback, and then if everyone is okay with it, then next step would be for Tom, myself, Matt, and CJ to get together and kind of work out how that would look from a financial standpoint. But I love it because it's probably even less than a quarter of what a professional is going to charge. It's our kids learning to do this and doing it, putting out a product. It's going to have our name on it. It's applications of what they're already learning, and it's going to give Tom a budget to do some more creative things with the TV studio. So, board, what do you guys think? Questions?
Just off the top of my head, if you're running it like a business, would the kids be involved in that end of it, like the bookkeeping end of it?
At this point, I would say probably not. I'd say I would just keep that between the school and company involved, and let the kids come in and do what they do best, and that's running equipment.
I love the fact that they get the experience. The equipment is state-of-the-art equipment. So I would say that we're probably undercutting ourselves on some of the prices that are put out there, but that's invaluable to get the kids that in front of that equipment as much as possible. So I'm all for it.
So I was kind of wondering, I think it's really loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, is it going to be formalized in a way that is, so if the kid goes, is it something that they could put on their resume that said, I worked as a video tech at Streetsboro High School, and my job responsibilities were, and bullet point their job responsibilities. So it's not just kind of like, I volunteered for $15 an hour, but it's more formalized than that. It's like the part of the, co-curriculum that it's an actual thing. Am I making sense?
No, you are, and I think, I'm sorry, Tom, you answer.
I have students that are hardcore that want to do this, and so absolutely. And I have students that are there and they kind of enjoy doing it, but they may not necessarily have the time to do it. But if I dangle the $15 an hour in front of them, I think they'll make time to do it. But I think the hardcore student that, I think they'll pursue that, and that is something they put on a resume. I had a company that installs equipment. They came in a couple weeks ago. We really had an audio issue, and they had to come in and bail me out. And it was a software thing. I had no idea. But my main student sat for an hour and just picked and picked and picked at the tech that they sent in, because he was a high school student at one point, and he's running the same equipment, and he's like, okay, so how did you get to where you are, and what did you do, and where did you go, and what kind of degree do you have? And so it became not so much about the equipment, it became about, what's in this for me down the road, where can I go? So yes, I've seen that is definitely something that they could use.
Yeah, I mean, I want not to make it too difficult, but I think it'd be really great if in addition to getting just, not that pay is a bad thing, but that it's something that could land on the resume as a formal experience that they benefited from, other than just getting the pay, that they got some educational opportunities that aren't available either through the classroom or are an extension of what they're doing in the classroom.
How often would you say that you got the opportunity to do something like this every year?
Well, we've never done it, so that's hard to say, but I probably had, just in the from probably last May until now, there's probably 4 or 5 opportunities that have been out there. And, some of them are, after school, and even after school ends, summertime, which kind of complicates things, or weekends. I mean, literally, we could spend 3 nights a week in the high school recording events, and that is a burden on students. That's a burden on me. I like my job, but I don't want to spend 15 hours a day, 3 days a week here any more than I have to. But we've had those opportunities, and it's a chance to do that. Big things, Thrive with Mr. Boardline. That's a no-brainer. Concerts, those are great learning activities for my kids to come in and be able to record. So this has just kind of presented itself, and it's like, well, we kind of need to do something with this. I either need to tell people, no, we don't do that, or yes, we do that, then kind of here's the price, here's an area where you'd be looking.
And just to make sure you guys know, Tom wasn't told he had to do this. The idea was presented and he was excited about it, but we have to wrap it with some parameters. We need to make it something that's worthwhile for our students, and Tom as well, and create a revenue stream for our TV studio.
So would it be also worthwhile if you get this together to have the folks in the graphic design create you a brochure, a trifold that could be handed out with your prices in it, plus the services that are offered, so that you're not just kind of trying to explain it every time somebody comes by, but you have some collateral material that you can hand out.
I think that's a great idea.
If you look in your folder too, that's the beginning of that information that you're talking about. Obviously not in a polished form like you're suggesting, Denise, but
I think that kind of goes along. If we're doing this as I understand we're doing it to have a source of funds to for the department, but also as a learning experience to have it kind of more or less kind of codified and a nice, like I said, a little maybe folder with your price sheet and a brochure in it. And then if a kid is participating in this and does want to put it on a resume or a college application, they could attach that as additional materials to say, hey, this was what I was involved in high school. And it was like, they were involved in a real professional setup and they have real world experience that they're carrying with them from Streetsboro.
Just by looking at it, I mean, I wouldn't know where to start with these prices, Tom, so hats off to you by figuring out all of the costs for this stuff, but just looking at the extended prices, that's a huge savings, like you said, for somebody to go ahead and do this, and I think it's great that the money's going to go back into the program, too. I think that's really important. We could use that money to purchase the things that we need, to even make it better than it already is, so nice job, Tom.
Thank you.
Good opportunity.
Thanks, buddy.
So I'm hearing pretty much agreement to move forward. So the reason there's not a recommendation on the agenda is because I think we still need to work out some of the details, and I want to involve the treasurer's office with that. So look for probably at the next board meeting a formal recommendation from me to move forward with this. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
As Tom is exiting there, just one other quick item. We actually had a meeting with Stark State area, and I did. They were touring what will be the old middle school about possible use of the facilities. And one of the things they brought to our attention was they knew we have a state-of-the-art TV studio, and they've heard of Tom before. And they actually have a program where they partner with districts, and they take the classes that Tom teaches and attach credit to it, so that when a kid could feasibly leave Streetsboro High School with several undergraduate hours in TV production. So if this kind of aligns right with what Tom's talking about, and then again, when I said, like we talked about already, what a great way to apply what you're learning in the classroom is than doing it after hours. So there's lots of great things to come. And Tom is, we bought him this studio, and it was all new. It was all new. It wasn't like what he had before. And he has put in, and I want to do a shout out to Tom because he has put in countless hours figuring out this equipment and learning to use it and then teaching kids. And what I also think is cool is he started talking about it, is the kids have taught him things. I think it's okay to say that, isn't it, Tom?
Oh, they teach me something every day.
I mean, these kids sit down and figure out stuff, and he's like, whoa, how'd you do that? And they show him. So it's been a great learning experience for all of us. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Bellaw. Moving on to treasurer's report.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Moving on to board reports, Ms. Dava.
So earlier this week and over the weekend, I was in Washington, D.C. for a couple of national conferences. One that I attended was the Equity Symposium. And I see Mr. Dolphus chatting during my report. I was going to ask you a question.
Vice President Kelly.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So one of the things is that, we talked about the, maybe we might want to consider an equity policy for our school district. I don't think we have a policy on equity, but it might be something that we want to examine. But before we do that, become more engaged as a board and also as an administration on specifically what equity would mean and what it would look like for our district. And talk about that. I think I sent Ariane and Mr. Dava just one of the pieces of information that I received during the conference. But it's a really interesting conference. That was a one-day conference, but also I went down to Washington again for the Advocacy Institute, which is NSBA's day on Capitol Hill. And just quickly, we spend the day lobbying our legislators on issues that are important to education, and some of the priorities that NSBA has set are it's actually been approved in the House, but it still waits approval in the Senate, and that provides federal funding for career technical education. When I met with Congressman Ryan's education fellow, I discussed specifically with her the reauthorization of the IDEA, and specifically, when it was passed in the 70s, we were told it was going to be funded at 40%, and it's never really reached more than 15%. And I talked to them specifically, and I hope this was a good example that at our last board meeting, you talked about our preschool having identified 10 additional students and needing another class, and those kids will be moving through our system, and we could use that extra money that they have yet to allocate to IDEA. So that's kind of what I focused on. Other issues that, the federal education investment for 2018 and 19, as well as educational choice, which, of course, NSBA opposes any legislation that diverts public monies to funding vouchers or other private choices in education. And also the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act And also, actually, I don't know how much it impacts us here in Ohio, but NSBA is focusing on DACA and immigration because there are a surprising number of teachers around the country who are DACA recipients, and some school districts have hundreds of teachers, larger school districts that are actually were brought to this country as children, and they are not actual citizens. So as we went around, like school districts in California and New York talked about the fact that they have DACA recipients who are teaching in their they've received teaching certificates and they're teaching their school districts, but they are not official citizens and they have no legal status in the United States. In Ohio, the statistics were there are about just over 9,000 individuals in Ohio that are impacted by DACA, and I don't know how many of those could potentially be teachers, but just generally 9,000 people. But that's one of the issues that NSBA is talking about. So I just want to move quickly to a couple of issues on the state level. The General Assembly is meeting regularly now, and there are two things. The Ohio House Ways and Means Committee passed House Bill HB 343 and HB 371, both sponsored by Rep. Derek Marin. And OSBA is strongly opposed to these bills and believe that they are unnecessary and potentially harmful to school districts. And these bills may soon be up for a vote in the House of Representatives. So the time to be heard is now. So they're asking board members and administrators to reach out to their representative. HB 343 requires school districts to notify property owners that the district is considering a board of revision filing to request an increase in the taxable value of the property. Also after notifying property owners, boards of education must pass a resolution naming all properties where the board intends to challenge values after notification is made and before filing can occur. With HB 371, it authorizes a tax exemption or freeze in the value of land in the pre-residential development stage and reduces property taxes for land purchases for residential development purposes. And specifically, the exemption applies to any subdivision, unapproved parcel on which construction of residential buildings, single-family, multi-family dwellings is planned but has not started. So if there's a new development coming, you don't get any increase in the taxable value on that property until everything's built. So you're losing, so if it takes 2 or 3 years to build out the development, you're losing all the increased taxable value on that land until the development's finished. So OSBA is asking board members around the state to reach out to their legislators. And I hear time and time again when I go down to Columbus for an OSBA meeting that the legislators really do listen when you call or email. And if they don't hear from people, they said, well, it doesn't matter, so it's not important. So I encourage my fellow board members to shoot an email off or make a call and let your legislator know about these things. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bava. Mr. Gibson?
I don't have anything to report right now.
Mr. Grimm?
Yeah, from the city, the Ohio Department of Transportation has a couple of projects that are starting. The project on State Route 303 West is getting underway. The utilities are being moved right now. The Ohio Edison is out there moving some utility poles, what is commonly known as the bowl that always floods over anytime a drop of water falls out of the sky. When the work actually starts, the bowl, on the bowl, the traffic will use the bypass to get through. That portion of the project will last about 180 days. Farther down by the railroad tracks, the culvert at Tinker's Creek is going to be replaced. When that happens, the road will be closed for about 30 days. The dates for the actual construction on both portions of State Route 303 and when the road will be closed for culvert replacement haven't been announced yet. According to the mayor, ODOT just is releasing those projects, so they don't have a contractor in place yet. That is supposed to happen very soon, but he'll let me know as soon as they get more information from ODOT. Also, the east leg of State Route 303 from State Route 14 to the east city limits right out in front of the schools here will also be repaved this summer, waiting on a construction timeline for that project as well. Hopefully, the road closure on 303 happens after school's out. Over at the high school on Saturday, January 27th, several high school musicians participated in the Ohio Music Education Association District 6 solo and ensemble competition at Firestone High School. There are many well-deserved 1 or superior ratings. Our students continue to showcase their musical talents all across Northeast Ohio as they represent our schools very nicely. The Band Boosters are conducting a bowling fundraiser for parents March 3rd from 6:15 to 9 p.m. at Kent Lanes on South Water Street in Kent. Cost is $50 per couple. You can check the Band Boosters Facebook page or contact Kathy Danner or pick up a form here if you're interested in going. SHS Winter Choral Concert will be held Monday, February 12th, 7 o'clock at the high school auditorium. And you can join the choir again for a celebration of Black History Month, February 22nd at 7 o'clock, again in the high school auditorium. For theater, the theater group will be participating in Art Knows No Boundaries tomorrow and Saturday, February 9th and 10th at 7 p.m. at the Fraternal Order of Eagles Hall on State Route 14. Tickets are still available for only $5 each at thrivepro.org. On March 11th, tune into ABC television to see Streetsboro graduate Maddie Finn on American Idol. Maddie and her band, and Maddie Finn is the name of the band also, they performed at many venues, including some early performances at Family Days and at the Tri-C Rock-Off, where they were the first female-fronted band to win that contest. As a freshman at Streetsboro High School, Mr. Boardwine tells me Maddie co-starred in the 2009 spring production of Salem's Daughter. Maddie also sang in the 2012 production of Lady Dracula. Her band was formed with 2 fellow Streetsboro High School classmates, Brian Poston and Justin Packwood, along with Kyle Tresh from Medina. This band was an extension of their class activities at Streetsboro High School with Mr. Boardwine. And speaking of Mr. Boardwine, he has submitted for a $10,000 grant from NBC Television's RISE America Project. RISE is an acronym for Recognizing and Inspiring Student Expression. NBC partnered with the Educational Theater Foundation and will award 50 high schools with a $10,000 grant each to enable each of those schools to enhance or revitalize their theater programs. The winning schools can use the grant money to cover various costs, including classes and production expenses. And this is all inspired by an upcoming drama called Rise, which will premiere on NBC March 13th. And we wish Mr. Boardwine and our theater students good luck in obtaining that grant, because they very much deserve it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Kelly.
All right, I do have some athletic highlights. So in wrestling, our team placed 2nd at the Clear Fork tournament and 3rd at the Hudson Holiday tournament. Hank Carey was voted the tournament most outstanding wrestler at Clear Fork. Chris Anderson was voted the tournament's most outstanding wrestler at Hudson. Dominic Crone broke the Streetsboro career win record this season. Dominic Crone, Chris Anderson, and Hank Carey were tournament champions at Clear Fork. Sean Neff, Dominic Crone, Chris Anderson, and Hank Carey were tournament champions at Hudson. Dominic Crone and Caden Rogers were tournament champions at the Green Bulldog Invitational. The team is 4-2 in the PTC Metro, including an exciting 39-38 victory over Coventry, where heavyweight Jacob Devers scored a pin for the win. They're 7-4 overall, and tonight is senior night. And they also have the PTC Wrestling Tournament will be held on the 16th and 17th of February at Ridgetown High School. For boys basketball, they're currently 8-11. The district tournament draw is this Sunday. They'll play in the Stowe District. Braden Tucker has been nominated 3 times this season for JJ Huddle Max Prep Player of the Week. He was chosen for the Akron Beacon Journal Spotlight last week after scoring 32 points versus Crestwood and 29 in the overtime win for Springfield. He has broken 2 score records so far this season. He broke the single game scoring record earlier in the season with 45 points versus Kenston. Friday night, he hit a school record 15 of 16 foul shots in a come from behind win versus Coventry, in which he scored 37 points. He also has a single game assist record with 12 that he broke last season versus Ravenna. So he's pretty good at basketball. Bailey Devers will be representing Streetsboro basketball in the annual Portage County Bank March Madness commercial and photo shoots. The photo shoot will take place on the 18th of February, and senior night is the 16th of February. Girls basketball, currently 8-11 on the season and 7-4 in the PTC, which is tied for 3rd place. Rachel Bolliard, I hope I said that right, Boyard continues to have a great season as she approaches the record for points scored in a season. She has already broken other records such as free throws made in a game and three-pointers made in a career. The team also has a home game for the second year in a row in the first round of tournament play on Saturday, February 17th at 1 p.m. Saturday, February 10th is senior night. And lastly, I attended the Gridiron's annual fundraiser, which was at Kent Lane's on Saturday. It was at 9 p.m., which is a little late for me, but it was a nice event. Hats off to the Gridiron Club for putting on a great event. They're the athletic booster, the booster program for the football team. They help out with youth football as well. They had a record turnout for people that attended, and I know they did really well on fun. So it was a really nice turnout. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. My report is up Maplewood. I'll be sending all of you the notes from last month's meeting. There wasn't a whole lot that went on. And then I did attend my first Educational Foundation meeting, and there was discussion about funding for the Educational Foundation at that meeting, because, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, the funding is starting to dry up that they currently get. So they're looking at other avenues to raise money. So stay tuned. There may be some fundraisers that they have. One discussion was like a night at the races. So it'll be a fun night out. So stay tuned. You might hear about that soon. And that's all I have to report.
Yeah, their primary funding source are the abatements, and most of our abatements are starting to fall off now. All right, and so their revenue stream's drying up.
So that ends the board reports. Moving on to the consent agenda. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items B through N.
I'll move.
I'll second.
First and a second. Any discussion?
I have a question about the College Credit Plus agreements. We pay for the books for College Credit Plus. We do. And how much is that? Because I know that for some districts, that's an issue, huh?
It is an issue. We've already expended close to $7,000 this year. So just this year for what the kids have done.
If we take those books back, we don't allow the students to sell them, and we try to sell them back, but we don't recover even a fraction of the cost.
Last year, I think we got about $1,200 back at the end of the year.
And so our total so far this year is like 7,000?
Yeah. Might be higher than that. I haven't seen, we haven't got all of the bills in yet for second semester for the students who are taking classes second semester. We haven't got all of them.
Just to piggyback on that, has anybody explored possibly renting them for them? I mean, is that possible? Can you do that? I know some of the books you can't rent because they're not.
Like there's one of the math courses that a lot of our students take that you need the serial number inside the book, and as soon as you get it, the book is worthless. You can't sell it back. But you can't borrow that number from anybody else.
So, and I guess another kind of question. So do you know, can you say if that cost is kind of remaining steady or is it climbing? Okay. Okay.
Another one of our
lobbying issue.
Well, it's another one of our unfunded mandates.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to superintendent's recommendations.
I don't have any.
Moving on to treasurer's recommendations.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve adding the following cash accounts. The first one being 0199318 for the PBIS grant, and also 0199319 for the SST8 grant, both of which it's always been a policy of mine to actually ask for board approval to create new cash accounts to segregate those particular grants for expenditure purposes and for tracking.
Need a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Moved. Mr. Grimm, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Buck? Mr. Beal?
Yes, motion carried.
Item B, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve amending the appropriations for Fund 019 by increasing it by $6,000. That is the new grant amounts that I have created or that I've asked approval for those cash accounts. So I want to increase my appropriations to allow for those particular items.
I'll move.
Second.
Denise Zappa and Mr. Grimm second. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson? Yes. Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on, we have no new business. Do we have any new business? Hearing none. Old business, hearing none. Board President's recommendation, moving on to item A, executive session. It is recommended the Board of Education enter into an executive session, consider the employment as well as discipline with respect to a public employee or official, and to consider details relative to security arrangements and emergency response protocols for a public body or a public office. The disclosure of the matters discussed could reasonably be expected to jeopardize the security of the public body or public office with possible actions to follow.
I'll move.
Second. First and a second, Mr. Kelly second. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson? Yes. Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried. We're in executive session at 7:03.